What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Sweezy NBA. Every NBA fan remembers the legends, the Jordans, the LeBrons, the Kobes. But what about those guys who were once stars, made a real impact, but now never really get mentioned in conversations anymore? Today, we are jumping into top 5 forgotten NBA players who are actually stars in the league. So without further ado, let's get right into it. My first player that I will be talking about that was a real star in the league, Agent Zero, Gilbert Arenas. Before injuries and a little bit of off-court drama cut his career short, Arenas was one of the most feared scorers in the league. From 2005 to 2007, he averaged nearly 28 points per game and was a 3-time All-Star. He wasn't just good, he was must-watch TV. Arenas had unlimited range before it was cool, pulling up from way behind the arc and hitting clutch shots. Who could forget when he dropped 60 points on Kobe and the Lakers in 2006? Even Kobe himself admitted that Arenas was on another level that night. But things fell apart quickly for him. Knee injuries robbed him of his explosiveness, and then the infamous locker room incident basically ended his career in Washington. Now, most fans remember him more for his podcast takes and antics than his actual game. But make no mistake, during his peak, Gilbert Arenas was a superstar who could go toe-to-toe with anyone in the league. Next, let's talk about Danny Granger from the Indiana Pacers. If you only started watching basketball after 2013, you probably know the Pacers as Paul George's team. But before PG, Granger was the guy in Indiana. In 2008-2009 season, Granger averaged over 25 points per game and made the All-Star team. He had great size for a wing, could shoot from deep, and was athletic enough to defend multiple positions. For a while, he looked like a future superstar who could carry the Pacers into the playoffs consistently. The problem? His body just gave out. Chronic knee issues hit him right when he was supposed to be entering his prime. By the time the Pacers became contenders in the early 2010s, Granger was just mostly a role player, while Paul George took over as the new franchise star. It's sad because if injuries didn't derail him, we might be talking about Granger as one of the best forwards of his era. Instead, he's become a forgotten name in Pacers history, overshadowed by the stars who came after him, like Paul George. You can't talk about forgotten NBA players without mentioning Stephon Marbury. He's a guy whose NBA story is way more complicated than people remember. Sure, his messy stint with the Knicks made him a meme for a while, but at his peak, Marbury was one of the best point guards in the league. He averaged 20 points and 8 assists per game across his career. That's a stat line only a handful of point guards in NBA history can match. He had crazy handles, elite court vision, and was strong enough to finish at the rim. But his reputation took a hit because he never really found team success in the NBA. He bounced around from Minnesota to New Jersey to Phoenix to New York. And despite putting up numbers, his teams never made deep playoff runs. Where his story gets wild is after the NBA. Marbury went to China and became a legend. He won multiple championships with the Beijing Ducks, got statues built in his honor, and is basically treated like Michael Jordan over there. It's one of the craziest redemption arcs in basketball. So while NBA fans may have forgotten just how good he was, Stephon Marbury's legacy is alive and well, just maybe not in the States. My next player who's a bit forgotten, but was an absolute star in the league, is Michael Redd. Michael Redd is someone younger NBA fans probably don't even know, but he was an absolute bucket in the mid-2000s. Drafted in the second round in 2000, he worked his way up from being a bench guy to becoming the face of the Milwaukee Bucks. At his peak, Redd was a lefty sharpshooter who could score from anywhere. In 2007, he scored 57 points in a single game against the Utah Jazz, which at the time was one of the highest scoring games in Bucks history. He made the All-Star team in 2004 and was even a part of Team USA before injuries slowed him down. What made Michael Redd so fun to watch was his smooth jumper. This was before the NBA three-point explosion we see today, but Redd was already a high-volume shooter who could stretch the floor. Unfortunately, knee injuries piled up, and he never got a real chance to shine in the playoffs. If you ask Bucks fans who watched him play, they'll tell you Michael Redd was one of the most underrated scorers of his generation. But for everyone else, his name has just faded from NBA conversations. And finally, we've got Rashard Lewis. If you watched the NBA in the late 2000s, you probably remember him as Dwight Howard's sidekick on those Orlando Magic teams. But Lewis was much more than just a role player. He was ahead of his time. Standing 6'10", Lewis had the size of a power forward, but played like a guard. He was one of the first true stretch fours in the NBA, a guy who could hit threes at a high clip while still posting up smaller defenders. In 2009, he was a huge reason why the Magic made the finals, hitting clutch shots against LeBron's Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Lewis made 2 All-Star teams and averaged over 20 points per game at his peak with the Seattle Supersonics. But because his style of play has now become so common in today's NBA, people don't really realize how revolutionary he was back then. Without players like Rashard Lewis paving the way, we might not see guys like Kevin Love, Chris Bosh, or even today's stretch bigs play the way they do. His impact was real, even if he doesn't get the credit he deserves. Those are just a few forgotten NBA players who were actually stars in the league. If I missed anyone, drop them in the comments. And also, tell me what your favorite forgotten NBA player is in the comments as well. Don't forget to hit the likes button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.